director of the film, Mr. Trent Harris. Nice to have you back with us, sir.
Well, thank you.
I really enjoyed that movie, having seen it only recently. I think it's a real testament to your talent that you took the buddy comedy, which is one of the more simplistic and well-worn Hollywood formulas, and you managed to make a movie that's completely unique. So, thank you, sir, for breathing life into the genre. You mentioned before the film that the film came out the same time as the LA riots.
Right about then, yeah.
What was the critical response like in that time?
The Boston Globe said it was the worst movie of the decade. Like I said, that's when I knew I was on to something. I think that the critic from the LA Times said that person that made, or that had Crispin Glover's suck odor eaters should have his driver's license taken away. Like, that was the good reviews. I mean, it was amazing how the response was bad.
Okay. Well, let's take it back a little bit.
It wasn't bad, it was horrible. It was actually mean in a weird way. I couldn't understand why they... I mean, you can not like the movie, but it seemed like they were picking on it.
Were they all working for the organization? Only theory. And while I'm on the subject, was there any real-life organization? I always find the patter of pyramid schemes and whatnot really entertaining. Works in this film. What did you draw inspiration from?
I mean, it came from a couple of places, but one thing, I was living in Hollywood in a basement apartment, and I'm trying to make, I didn't have any, it was ridiculous. It broke, and I had insomnia, terrible insomnia, and I would wake up like, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'd start channel surfing, and I kept landing on this show, same show. It was Tom Vu was his name, and what he was a success person who was a Vietnamese boat person. And he, the first shot of him is in a saipan with one of those hats on and that sort of thing. And then the next, it cuts to him and he's on a yacht with all of these great-looking girls and he's sipping martinis. And, and it was through real estate. And I thought, gosh, maybe I should get into real estate.
Thankfully, that was not the course that was taken.
But there's one other thing. It's the thing with the cat. I don't know whether a lot of people know this, but when I was living in Salt Lake City, I had this friend named Merrill Melfith, who was a bricklayer. Big guy. He drank, Bud Light and, or Budweiser and Marlboros and slept on a piece of foam rubber on the floor. Anyway, I'm over at Merrill's one day. I said, drinking beer, and he said, oh, there's a beer in the fridge. I went to the refrigerator, and there was a frozen cat in the refrigerator. And I said, Merrill, there's a... And he said, yeah, Simon died, and I didn't want to throw him away, and I didn't know what to do, and so I'm keeping him frozen until I can figure out what, where to bury him. This kind of stuff sticks.
Understandably so. You got your start working in Salt Lake City as a local TV news correspondent.
Well, it wasn't really news. I was making short-form documentaries for a kind of an experimental television.
I know you covered like Timothy Leary, Patti Smith.
Oh, Timothy Leary, Patti Smith, the Ramones, Allen Ginsberg, Mormon missionaries, motorcycle gangs, hobos. I mean, Nice. It was an incredible experience.
Yeah, that's a wonderful training ground. Did it shape how you approached actors or non-actors in working in a film like this?
I have no idea how to approach actors. I mean, I actually prefer to work without actors.
If that's the case...
In fact, in the last movie I made, this Luna Mesa, I am the actor. So it's like, I don't have to deal with it.
How, if that's the case, did you encounter and begin working with Crispin Glover?
Did I what?
Began working with Crispin Glover. I know he was involved in the Beaver trilogy, which how many people saw yesterday? Or at all? See the Beaver trilogy, it's playing on me. Please. But,
the Beaver, that was before this.
Right,
I mean, his part in that, yeah. What was your question?
How you encountered Crispin Glover?
Gosh, how did I? Oh, I casting for that movie, The Orkley Kid, and brought him in to read for a minor part. And then thought, well, you know, he can do it. So that was it.
Very exciting. I noticed in the film that we just watched, Peter Boyle is thanked.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be in the film?
Well, he was in the film. Originally, Ed character was Peter Boyle, and then about 10 days into shooting, he had a stroke. A lot of people blame me for that. But I really, it would have been a different movie with Peter. I love Peter. He was a great guy. You know, it would have been a different film. I'm not sure it would have been a better film, but I wish I could find that footage that we shot of him. We had to restart over.
What changes did you feel were necessary when you started working with Howard Husband instead?
Well, actually, Peter was the one that said Howard could do this,
Oh.
and so I thank Peter for that. And Howard did a good job. He did a great job. You know, it's kind of a pain in the ass. My God,
Yeah, I have to ask if.
But I like, you know, he did a great job. I can't take that away from him.
Absolutely, it's
other people do.
It's a small ensemble. It's like the desert of Utah plays one role, and then there's Sean and Howard. Sorry, Crispin and Howard. We're talking about yesterday. Crispin and Howard. What was the chemistry like out in the beating sun in the middle of the desert? You know, there's the impression that it's very hot.
Crispin hid in his trailer. Howard just bitched the whole time. No, I mean it was,
So there was some tension between them off screen.
Well, no, they weren't mad at it. They were mad at me. They weren't mad at it's a hard thing to make a movie for hardly any money. So you're working long days, and well, I don't know how many of you are filmmakers, but you know, when you get into something like this, I mean, it's literally 16, 18-hour days for 2 months, 3 months on end. You know that last shot where they're walking down, or not quite the last shot, but they're coming down the parking thing, and he says Robert Redford wears platform shoes, that thing. The first take, I was looking up like that, and I passed out. You know, and then I woke up, and everybody was like, I said, did we get it? Yeah, we got it. That was the last day of shooting, but I literally passed out. I was so tired, or drunk, or something.
This film represents a point in your career where you had...
My career.
You had already come to Hollywood, you had already made the Beaver films.
Yeah, but nobody saw those.
How did this affect the years that followed in Hollywood? I know you didn't speak of it very favorably yesterday.
Basically this got me thrown out of Hollywood. I made this movie, and everybody just said, what in the fuck was that? And then it was like, you know, it didn't make a dime. It didn't make a dime. It lost everything that was spent. So that's, you know, you can make a bad movie here, but you can't not make money. It's witnessed by many films out there right now. They're terrible, but they make money. So anyway, it was like, I mean, when I left Los Angeles right after that, because I mean, I had another film that I'd written, and we were actually in pre-production called Zizix, which I quite liked. And you know, once the reviews came out, they pulled it like that. It's like, boom. We were already in, you know, location scouting, stuff like that. When I left Hollywood, my ears were bleeding. I was so angry. And so I went back to Salt Lake City and decided I'm just going to make films with my friends for no money. And I began to do that. Nobody's seen those either, but...
Well, I have one personal question that was nagging at me when I watched this. What happened to the cat? Not the cat in the film.
I've got it in my office.
Really?
Yeah.
The goggle-eyed cat that was used for these stunts.
Well, there were several. That was an animatronic, or I mean, actually that cat that water skis. I actually had to cast that cat.
What was the casting process for a water skiing cat like?
Not easy, believe me.
I'd like to open it up for questions from the audience. You, sir.
Speaking of the cat, I noticed it was the Kyoto Brothers?
Kyoto Brothers, yeah.
Are those the same guys that did the Killer Clowns? And
Yes,
those,
yeah.
those guys?
Oh, those guys are great, yeah. They're like the Marx Brothers.
Oh, I know, I met them.
Yeah, they're wonderful. Are they still around?
Yeah, they've been guests here, actually.
Oh, good. Those
Didn't
guys
make the
are
connection
great.
with the cat.
Yeah, those guys are great.
Anyone else? You, sir.
How long was Crispin Glover walking around in those shoes, and how many injuries did he incur?
Not a one. I mean, he didn't make it. He had no injuries. We had a couple of. Actually, I had the shoe bronze. Actually, I was broken. I sold it about 6 months ago. Yeah, you can probably find it on eBay.
Die Hard fans take note. You, sir.
Yeah, what was the budget?
It was about around $1 million, which is not. I mean, that's more money than I'll ever have. But that's not a lot of money when you're trying to do something like this. I mean, even on a cheap thing like this, you're spending $30,000 a day, and that's extremely cheap when this was made. Can't even remember when was that, 92 or something like that, 91. So it was about $1 million.
Was there a lot of improvisation on set?
No, not any. Every word is scripted.
Cool.
Because I think that, to me, it's funny I haven't seen this in a long time, but the dialogue, Ed's dialogue to me is I like it a lot, and I didn't want him fucking with it, screwing around with it, because I thought,
There's definitely a fun, aggressive rhythm that he takes full advantage of.
Well, and the way he puts words together and things like that, I liked a lot, so there was no improv at all.
I know you mentioned yesterday that Crispin Glover's appearance on Letterman in costume was neither in character nor influenced by acid.
That's right.
Did you feel it had any positive or negative effect on the film whatsoever? Just because it was such a publicized incident?
I've never watched it.
Okay.
I mean, he called me up after he'd done it. He said, I just got thrown off the show, and I said, just get on an airplane, come home. And then it's like, what the fuck do? And I turned on the TV that night, and I started to watch it, and I got up on the couch, and it was like, I'm standing on the couch at this point, and finally I just turned the TV off. So I've actually never seen the whole thing.
It is on YouTube?
It made me so crazy.
If anybody's curious, about 2 years before the film was released, Crispin Glover went on Late Night with David Letterman in full costume, not as Rubin, but still in costume, and demonstrated that he could do very high ninja kicks at David Letterman's head. And David Letterman walked off the set, and it was in all the newspapers. I always found it interesting. I wondered about what was going on there. Are there any other audience questions? Yeah.
I was just curious about My Cat Can Eat a Whole Watermelon, if there's any information related to that.
It just seemed like a good, I couldn't think of anything, it just seemed like, well, my cat can eat a whole watermelon. I don't know. This sort of came out, It's funny, I mean, the Andy Warhol Sucks a Big One was the same way. I was walking home from the Beechwood Cafe, and I'm thinking, it's like, Andy Warhol said, all right, that works.
You, sir.
Are you still in touch with Crispin? I think the world
Not
needs
much.
another collaboration between you.
No, God, we're like the Beatles. We broke up.
Oh, that's
Yes?
Yeah, you seem to have you seem to have at least gotten a pretty big following, at least in the home video market. When did that start?
Home video. I mean, those are all pirated. They never really. I mean, they released the original version of a VHS years and years ago, but those were stolen quite quickly out of the video stores.
And I remember renting them. I worked in the first time I saw this was I rented this from the video store I was working in, and I kept renting it to people and telling people to do that, and I had to buy it and pay a lot of money for it.
Was it stolen at the video store?
It wasn't when I got to it, but...
I mean, you can't believe how many people have told me, oh, it was stolen. And at that, well, you know how expensive they were. I mean, at that time, they'd sell a tape to the video store. It was like 120 bucks or something. So then it'd get stolen and they wouldn't replace it. So the thing just went boom, 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 boom. It so vanished. It was amazing. It so quickly disappeared. I mean, my girlfriend left me after I made this movie. No, no. It took years and years before, and you know, it's like I have no idea how this. It somehow it was word of mouth that so that you know, people began to see it and see it. But I mean, how many have seen it in here? Very many of you. Yeah. Well, they were probably. I bet you all saw it on a pirated version.
I saw it on a pirate rented from the video store.
I own the VHS tape.
Oh! I know those are worth about $300 on eBay.
Sold all of their VHS tapes. I bought a copy. They sold all of their VHS and they switched completely over to DVD. And I've rented it a dozen times, so I've caught it on the sales for that.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, it was really crazy.
To get it out there, it needs to get out there, and since DVD and Blu-ray hasn't happened, is it possible that you could go to like Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, and have it streamed?
I don't own the rights.
And then have them, if they get them interested, go to Sony.
No, I've had DVD companies, many, say, can we distribute this? And Sony goes, no. It's like, well, why? And it's like, I can't get an answer out of them. I mean, there's been quite a few DVD companies that have approached that, you know, make DVDs, et cetera, and they won't do it.
Because after 20 years, it holds up.
Yeah, well, they won't do it. And you know, well, I mean, the reason they won't do it is because they don't think it'll make any money, and they're probably right. And that's what the bottom line is. Like, it's always.
Margaret.
Huh?
Same case, Margaret.
Yeah.
How big was the crew on Rubin and Ed?
Oh, it was. I don't know. I'm not sure. It was a small crew.
Could you talk about the music, especially the sort of the theme?
Well, Fred Myro did the
Yeah, it's
music.
really unusual.
Fred Myro was terrific. He died a while right after the movie, and it wasn't my fault either. But, actually, when I was making the movie, or I mean, when I was writing the script, it was I was listening to Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto. I think it was number one or whatever. Dun dun dun. Anyway, that's what I had in mind, but we couldn't get the rights to it. You know, and Mahler is in public domain, so and it began, and Mahler worked, so it's like you know
What about the theme, the sort of the ending credit movie, the ending credit music, and the
that's Mahler. If you listen to it, it's a version of that Mahler.
Really?
Yeah. Dun, 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 dun. Isn't that Three Blind Mice too?
Yeah.
Or Fair Jockey, yeah.
You sir in the back.
There's a fair bit of Star Wars allusions in the movie. Can you speak to that?
What? Really?
You know, all the Desert Quest stuff, where he's saying you go off in that direction, et cetera, and a lot of the shots were very similar, as well as the flashing light.
Well, you know, Lucas ripped me off so many times.
One more question. You say.
Is there a story behind the barking dog?
Did that work? All right, we're in the park, we're shooting the scene, and there's a guy standing over there barking like a dog. And the producer's like, no, just shoot it, just shoot it. Really, that's what.
You have a great eye, sir. Thank you for asking that question.
Yes.
Thank you, Trent Harris. We've had a wonderful time with you here. The patio is going to be open if you'd like to join us. Mr. Harris out back for lemonade.